Melanie, thank you for letting me talk to you about DVT awareness. And the month of March is always a very special month, and you have done so much to raise DVT awareness and the importance to prevent DVT and just to teach people what it's like. This really started 10 years ago when David, your husband, tragically had a fatal pulmonary embolism. And I believe I met you perhaps about a year after the tragedy, and we met in Washington, as I recall. But tell me, did you ever, in your wildest dreams, imagine that there would be a decade-long journey?
No, not at all. I mean, this has just been an amazing 10 years. And it came about in such an unexpected way. Certainly I never anticipated losing my husband to begin with, much less from something like deep vein thrombosis or pulmonary embolism, which I'd never heard of, given the fact that he was embedded with the 3rd Infantry Division covering a war. So the way it came about was, sort of shocking to begin with. And it's my understanding that the Coalition to Prevent DVT, which you were one of the founding fathers, I believe, of that organization, that the coalition came into being 2 months before David's death. So there was almost something providential about it, that if David had to die, he died from something that needed a voice. And it all seemed to happen, the timing was quite uncanny, I think, for this. And then, yes, it was about a year before I stepped up and made that decision to partner with the coalition and share David's story and try to raise awareness about DVT and PE.
In your wildest dreams, did you ever think that you could accomplish so much over the past 10 years?
Well, and it wasn't just me. I had such a wonderful support system with the coalition and all of you physicians who were really doing the work, and I was just sort of the mouthpiece for it. I think David's story really resonated with people, and certainly when we first started, I thought maybe we'd have a 10-week run. I never dreamed it would be a 10-year run. But I think it almost took on a life of its own. And when I reflect on that and think about the statistics, that 300,000 people die each year in our nation, so those people are relating to David's story in some way. I mean, each situation might be different, but if you've lost your life from this, you connect and you relate to that. And I think maybe the reason that we had the momentum over these 10 years is because, people could identify with that story, or their people or their loved ones, and, it kind of grew with that, people wanting to know more, wanting to know certainly how to prevent it so that this tragedy doesn't happen to them or happen again in their families.
It is amazing that very educated people like you and David, many people who've been through college and graduate school, never heard of deep vein thrombosis or pulmonary embolism, yet everyone's heard of heart attack and stroke. How do you think that came about?
Well, that's true. A study done in 2003, the year David passed away, showed that 74% of Americans had never heard of DVT, and I was one of them. And I think it came about, I mean, we've had progress over these 10 years. I believe we've moved that needle by about 20%. And certainly some of the campaigns we've had over the years with the coalition has helped to generate more public awareness. And then the work you did to bring in the Surgeon General and get a call to action back in 2008. The Joint Commission mandated national patient safety goals. So I think there have been strides in many different areas, just, talking to people at hospital and community events, going on Capitol Hill and pushing for some political muscle to get behind DVT, PE awareness. And then the media, we've had, the media has been great, open arms, getting on shows and talking to people with, major networks to get the word out.
You think the needle's only moved 20%? And what does that mean, that half of Americans don't know what DVT is even now?
That's true. We're still at about the halfway mark with awareness. And that actually is a significant movement, though, in this day and age with so many competing health issues. You know, everyone has their ribbon or their 10K or their rubber bracelet. So it's very hard these days to get people to sit up and take notice and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And what I explain to people is, you know, it's wonderful we have the kind of awareness we have for breast cancer screening and HIV protection. All that is so very important. But sort of creeping up behind the scenes is DVT that can just sneak in the back door while you're dealing with your cancer or you're dealing with your hip or knee replacement. This is quite an insidious condition that, you know, in the end can cut short your battle with cancer, or you might go home with a new knee, but then find yourself back in the hospital with a clot or a PE or worse, you know, death, like in David's case. It can happen quite suddenly. So, you know, I think that getting a 20% increase in awareness is progress, but there's a lot more to be done. We'd
Sure.
like it to be a household name.
Well, you are one of the world's best educators about DVT and pulmonary embolism. As you think toward the next 10 years, because this is a marathon that we're in, an education marathon, what are the next steps for all of us who are committed to education to take? How do we, I agree with you that awareness has shot up. I overhear on buses and trains people talking about their neighbor or relative who had DVT, and that would have been unimaginable a decade ago. But where should we be going? What direction should we take over the next 10 years? Because I don't think either you or I are going to settle for 50% awareness.
Right. No, that's not enough. That's not enough. You know, I think the grassroots effort, people talking to people, sometimes when I give speeches across the country, I will tell everyone in the room, if there are 200 people in the room, I will say, if each one of you tell one person, or if each one of you go home and tell 2 people, you know, that can really spread. And I think continuing to get the word out, certainly doing more media outreach, more hospital and community events I think are important. And then I know your organization, the NATF, is making great strides in not just late-breaking treatment procedures, and but also in raising that level of awareness. And I think it's important that groups like yours and the coalition come together and create a groundswell and keep that momentum going. You know, it was in the beginning easier, if you will, in that David was in the public eye when he died, and it was the beginning of the war in Iraq, and so it was a news story at that time. So, but his legacy lives on with this story, and again, I think it's just amplifying the voices of all the other 2 million patients each year in our nation who will develop a clot, and getting them to listen and to talk about it.
It's frustrating in many ways because there is so much we can do to identify people at risk, and we have so many effective tools for prevention. We just need to know who's at risk, and we then need to be able to really translate what we know into application of the prevention techniques.
Yes, you know, when you lose someone dear to you and find out that that was preventable and or treatable, that's a bitter pill to swallow. You know, so for people to know about it ahead of time so that they can take those preventive steps, talk to their doctors, get the proper care, that's sometimes the difference between life and death, and that means the world to a loved one or a family member.
What has this been like for you over the past 10 years? I saw the photos of you, David, and the girls when Matt interviewed you, but can you tell us a bit, or willing to share with us what their growth's been like the last 10 years, and what directions, they're no longer little girls, what directions are they headed in now?
That's right, they're young ladies. Amazing how they grow up in 10 years, right? A lot has happened, and I think for me personally, it was quite a cathartic journey. What I learned pretty early on in the process as I was grappling with my grief and starting to do the DVT work is that helping others is the greatest healer. It really did help me heal on my journey through grief and then feel as if I really had a purpose. And I believe that my girls, I'd like to think that they kind of watched that and that I modeled for them being proactive, getting out there and doing something. We were dealt a harsh blow, but we can help others. And in doing that, we honor their daddy's memory. And I tried to show them how to be, strong people, women, and that people can make a difference if they're willing to get out there and, share, talk, and take a tragedy and try to turn it into something more positive. So over the years, they've grown up. My youngest, who was 3 years old when David passed away, is now 13. And the twins, who were 9 years old when David passed away, they are now 19. They just turned 19 this week.
Oh, wonderful.
Freshmen in college. And, I couldn't be more proud of them. They're doing very well. And I know you've met my new husband. I have been blessed with meeting a wonderful man.
Yes, he is wonderful.
Yes, and I now have 2 more kids. 3 wasn't enough. Now I have 5. And, that's also been a wonderful new chapter, certainly on a personal level in my life.
I remember at one point one twin was interested in medicine and the other in journalism. Interests certainly change over a decade. Have they gone off in different directions now?
Well, the journalism girl is anchoring some of the news programs at Elon University, so she continues to move in that direction and loves it. I think she has, her daddy's genes. She's really good on the camera. But I still get nervous every time I get on the camera, but she's good. And then my daughter, who's interested in medicine, is still considering that. She's at Kenyon Kenyon College in Ohio. And she is still thinking about medicine, but also interested in, she's taking a constitutional law class and economics, and so she's not sure now where she wants to, what she wants to pursue. But, that's the time to think about it and make those decisions.
Absolutely. I think when I was her age, I was committed to being a journalist. So things change.
That's right. I do remember that about your story, your history.
Well, we are so much looking forward to seeing you at our signature event and to really honoring you and congratulating you in person for your decade of dedication and to acknowledge some of the great things that you've accomplished.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and it is such an honor.
We'll see you soon. Thank you, Melanie.
See you soon. Thanks, Sam. Bye-bye.